Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about something that isn't always the funnest that we have to go through sometimes in life. If you are going through really serious heartbreak, if you are going through a painful breakup, if you are going through a divorce, if you have been discarded, if you've been left, or even if you initiated the breakup or the divorce, the phases of rebuilding and healing, while there are so many beautiful things and amazing things and fun things to look forward to, there are some downsides and there are some pains that we have to go through. And sometimes we don't really acknowledge that. We just are always talking so much about the positives and moving forward, and all of that is absolutely amazing, and you need that at this time in your life 100%. But we also can't not acknowledge some of the stuff that is difficult that we have to go through. One of the biggest things that I talk about with self-parenting is validation, and so being able to kind of not judge the fact that these 6 things are a thing, and validating each of these experiences. And then of course moving forward in a really positive and healthy and loving way, but we have to be able to say, this is a thing and I feel this way. So let's get into this. First thing is loneliness. It is not fun to go from having the convenience of a person and the convenience of a relationship and just the person that you spent the holidays with, that you went to a wedding with. Like, you didn't have to think about ever doing something alone. You always had that person with you, and to have that kind of like day-to-day life, and then for it to really change, that's something that's hard to go through. A lot of people don't want to be lonely, and when the loneliness starts to kind of like settle in, it scares them, and they immediately want to just start linking up. They immediately start going on the dating apps, filling, their time and their days with things to do and people, and being able to just kind of sit and do these things, go to these weddings and everything by themselves, going grocery shopping by yourself, making the meals, being home alone, and just trying to figure it out. A lot of people don't like that uncomfortable space, and so they quickly either want to jump back into another relationship and link up, or they just avoid those feelings altogether and just try to keep as busy as you can. Now, of course, on some levels, we want to keep busy and we want to, have positive things to look forward to, but there are just times where the loneliness just creeps in, and accepting that you are lonely or accepting that you are in this phase of life isn't something that we want to do. No one wants to have to accept that. But it is a part of rebuilding, and it's a part of starting over again. And it's a sad part. And I want to validate that for you, because it doesn't mean we're going to sit there forever, but we have to at least be able to acknowledge that this is a thing. And it's something that, of course, the upside is you're going to learn how to do these things alone. You're going to eventually learn how to be okay with going to the grocery store by yourself, maybe going to the movies by yourself, like going to that first wedding by yourself, and going through kind of the motions of feeling comfortable again, being just with yourself. The next thing is single parenting. Single parenting and having to share kids sucks. Let's just call it what it is. There's the only kind of positive spin that I think I will ever put on it, because been there, is the fact that I know a lot of married couples who have children and they don't get breaks. They don't ever get time away from their kids unless they go to work, or, really that's kind of the only breaks that they get. And while I didn't want any breaks, I didn't ask for breaks, it wasn't what I signed up for. If I had to have a break, I was going to enjoy it, whether that was rest, whether that was go on a trip, whether that was spend time alone, whether that was eventually, when you do get into another relationship, enjoying that partner and being able to have date nights throughout the week, because otherwise you really wouldn't have had those. And yes, you can always find a babysitter, and maybe if you live near friends or family, they can be there for you and help you as a married couple or a couple to be able to spend time together, or even give yourself your own time. I still think that life can go pretty fast, and we don't often cut out and carve out those times as couples for ourselves to be able to do things for ourselves in really healthy ways. So I think you have to be alone. This is your opportunity to do that. But single parenting, not really fun at times. Having to do it all on your own is really difficult. Does it build a muscle in you? Yes. Do you learn how to be super strong and that you can actually do more than you ever thought you could? Absolutely. Do you get all the love and you don't have to compromise on how we're going to parent. I mean, if you're co-parenting and it's going well, then yes, you still have that person in your life. But if you're not, then no, you get to parent the way you see fit, and you don't have to work with someone else in that way. So pros and cons, absolutely. But having to have that first holiday or that first birthday where your child doesn't wake up with you, or having to now co-parent and deal with this, and this is something that you never thought you would do, and it's not always fun, and it can be really hard. Those are validating things that you're going to experience. Having to see your kids leaving you and they don't want to leave you, or having your kids come back home and they miss the other parent and they're upset, and all of those things that you have to work through, either within yourself or help your child to navigate through, not always the funnest stuff in the world. So what you're going through, again, there's going to be beautiful things that come of this, and you will move on, and this won't be a thing that you feel forever. But in the very beginning, these are the real painful things that we sometimes have to go through. We have to go through that readjustment period with ourselves, with our children, of trying to figure out, okay, what's the new norm going to look like? And it's not easy for anyone. The next thing is getting out of your comfort zone. I think when you are rebuilding, getting out of your comfort zone is probably at the top of the list, because again, you're going to the wedding by yourself, you're going somewhere by yourself. And now don't get me wrong, you could be in a rebuilding phase and not do anything to get yourself out of your comfort zone. You can kind of live the woe is me victim mentality and just stay stuck forever and never really push yourself. Or you can say, you know what? I need to do something different. I want to change my life. I want to get out of my own way, and I want to start doing things for myself and pushing yourself. And again, beautiful thing, will help you tremendously in life. It will give you a sense of self and connection with yourself, and you're parenting yourself. There's so many beautiful things that come of this, but no one wants to sign up to get out of their comfort zone. So while it's extremely hard to do, it probably is one of the things out of all of them that you will benefit tremendously from if you do it. The next thing is really being left to your own devices, and it's kind of like getting out of your comfort zone, and it's a little bit of the lonely thing where you're by yourself now. So while of course we have friends and family, and of course we have coaching, and of course we have videos, and of course we have chat rooms, of course there's always people around. We're not meant to just be lonely and stuck in a room by ourselves, dealing with life by ourselves. No. But you are left to your own devices, meaning you are now responsible for kind of making things happen for yourself. You're responsible now for easing your own anxieties. And even if you were in a relationship, of course, these things still pertain. But when we're in a relationship, we do, especially if it's an unhealthy one, we did probably default to this person more, maybe sometimes than we should have. And I think if you can learn how to do these things for yourself, it doesn't mean that you're never going to ask for help, but it does mean that maybe you'll have a healthier relationship because you won't be relying on your partner to be everything for you that you should have been for yourself. So things like easing your anxieties, motivating yourself, being okay with just being home alone, being okay with going to the mall by yourself, going to the gym without a partner, kind of doing these things that force you to, again, get out of your comfort zone, but you really have to make things happen for yourself. There's no person in the house that's kind of saying, well, let's go do this, well, let's go do that. You can be incredibly selfish, and that's kind of the upside at this point in your life. That rebuilding phase is all about you. It is all about you being selfish. It's all about you, within reason, obviously, if you're a parent, but it's all about what do you want to do, what's going to make you happy, and making sure that you're giving yourself that every single day. Beautiful place to live. So while on some levels it can be a really hard thing because you're kind of oh my God, I don't know myself other than have been with this person. And then of course I'm going to grieve and I'm going to mourn. We used to do everything together and all of those things. And now it's kind of I'm just left to my own devices and I have to figure it out. While it can be a great thing, it can also be a really scary thing at times. And you have to make sure that you validate that it isn't always the easiest thing in the world to do. But when you do it, and you do it consistently, it changes who you are in a really powerful way. The other thing that is really hard when you're rebuilding is because you're left to your own devices, because it is just you, the chatter in the mind starts more. When you have distractions, whether it's the kids whether it's the partner and all of these things, then the worries, the fear, the anxieties, they kind of like subside because you have distractions. That's why a lot of the times we will feel anxious at night, or we'll feel anxious in situations where there's nothing really going on, because the mind has an ability to kind of say, oh, it's quiet now. Okay, let me just turn the volume up on all the worries and fears and self-doubts that you've ever had in your whole life, and let's kind of bring that all to the surface. You don't want that. But here's the thing, if you're still in your quiet and all of this stuff is coming up, you actually have an opportunity now to heal it, to reprogram it, and to work on it. And that's why sometimes being single and going through, especially when you're coming out of a really painful breakup or relationship, all of this stuff is 100% going to come to the surface, because it's trying to, so you can actually heal and rebuild and grow and change. That's what this quote pain is trying to do for you. The last thing that I think really is difficult for a lot of people when they're rebuilding is, quite frankly, it just takes time to rebuild, and we're often very impatient with the process and we want to get there really quickly, and having to figure out everything all over again. And I had this family and this dynamic and this house and this neighborhood and this job and this money and this life, and now everything starts to change, and it can be a great thing. You get a chance to kind of rebuild, but you also have to mourn that this was something that I thought I was just going to have and now I don't. And I don't want to be here. I know in the beginning phases of my divorce, or right after I got divorced, I didn't want to be where I was. This wasn't what I signed up for. And having to kind of sit in this okay, now I have to rebuild and I'm starting all over again. That wasn't fun. I didn't always want to be there, and I got angry and I got resentful, and I was mad that I was in this situation. There were times where I obviously was very grateful I was in this situation, but there were times where it wasn't always the easiest thing to go through. And I think that's a process in itself. And working that muscle of having faith, of rebuilding, of manifesting, of creating goals and creating visions, and the whole rebuilding process can be so incredibly fun and exciting. It is also really scary at times. It challenges you in such a way that you can't really understand how it's going to change you until you're kind of on the other side, and you're like, wow, I've learned so much, I've changed so much, and it's changed who you are for the rest of your life. You'll never ever be that older version of yourself again. That was the point of what this relationship or this breakup was supposed to really do for you. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it gave you some comfort. I hope it gave you some validation. I hope it gave you some encouragement that this too shall pass. But I want to make sure that we're also highlighting the things that are real feelings that we experience, and not just always trying to get to that other side and the good stuff. And while, yes, we want to get there, we have to also acknowledge that we're just still here, and giving yourself some grace. So again, I hope you have enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to give a thumbs up and comment down below if you are knee deep in this stuff right now, because we need support and we need to feel like we're not alone in this process. I will see you in the next video. Take care.